All right, so we're diving into this CNN analysis you sent over.
Mm.
And wow, this 2024 U.S. presidential race, it's like a political thriller, right?
Yeah,
The
definitely.
stakes are incredibly high, and one of the candidates, it seems like every week, there's a new headline that you think would completely derail a campaign.
Right.
But that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's like the normal rules of politics, they don't even apply anymore.
What's fascinating is that despite all of the controversies, the race is actually incredibly close.
Yeah, the CNN polls has Harris at 50% and Trump at 47%. I mean, we're talking about a difference that's within the margin of error for some polls.
Right.
So it really begs the question, if those really public missteps haven't sunk his chances yet, what will?
Well, and that's where understanding the U.S. electoral college system is so important, because it's not just about winning the popular vote, it's about winning in the right places.
Yeah.
A handful of states, we call them swing states: Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina. Those are the ones that are really going to determine the outcome of this election.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, right? The future of the country decided by a small group of voters in these specific states. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to be one of those voters?
I know it's a lot of pressure, right?
To know that your single vote carries so much weight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny because this CNN analysis, when they talk about Trump's campaign, it's like they're talking about two different realities.
Oh, tell me about it.
You have this candidate who, on the one hand, has been through 2 impeachments, a criminal conviction, things that you would think would be political suicide.
Right.
But on the other hand, here, he is still a major contender in this election.
It really makes you wonder if the old playbook even applies anymore.
And CNN digs into this idea of voter psychology, especially among those who felt like things were pretty good economically during the Trump years before the pandemic hit.
Right, like
Yeah.
that nostalgia factor can be really powerful in politics.
Totally. Because you would think voters would be making their decisions based on like what's happening right now in their lives.
Sure.
But this analysis suggests that memories, even if they're a little fuzzy around the edges, can be just as powerful in shaping people's choices. And it gets me thinking, what if the GOP had gone with a different candidate this time around? Someone who could tap into those same economic anxieties,
Huh.
but without, all the other stuff that comes with Trump.
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Right. Like, could they be even further ahead in the polls if they had gone a different direction?
It's certainly possible. I mean, look, no candidate is perfect, but the GOP definitely took a gamble with Trump this time.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
But it's not just about Trump, is it? We have Kamala Harris on the other side. She's stepping into some pretty big shoes, trying to follow in Biden's footsteps.
Right, and that comes with its own set of challenges.
For sure. And CNN really highlights how Harris is working to position herself as the leader for a new generation. She even uses that phrase, opportunity economy. It's like she's trying to signal a break from the past.
Which makes sense as a strategy.
But how do you reconcile that message with the reality that she's still tied to the current administration's record?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had some wins, but they've also faced a lot of criticism.
Right. It's a tough needle to thread.
It's a tough balancing act to pull off. No doubt about that. And speaking of balancing acts, we got to talk about the issues that are really on voters' minds right now. CNN did a deep dive into this NBC poll.
Yeah, that poll was really revealing.
It seemed like the top 3 concerns they highlighted were inflation threats to democracy and then immigration. And I don't know about you, but when I saw those 3, it struck me that, those are all issues that at least traditionally would seem to favor Republicans.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this current political climate.
Right. Exactly. So why isn't Trump running away with this thing?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Because here's the thing, while those issues might typically be seen as Republican strongholds, Trump's approach to them, his whole style, it can be a little, let's just say it's not winning him any fans in the middle.
It's that unpredictability factor again, right?
Exactly.
CNN even pointed out some of his recent economic proposals, like no tax on tips, repealing part of his own tax plan from a few years ago. I mean,
It's like, which way is he going?
right. And I think for a lot of voters, even if they agree with him on some of the issues, that unpredictability, it makes it tough to fully commit.
It makes you wonder who's advising him sometimes.
Right. Like, is anyone, and this is where I thought Senator Lindsey Graham's analysis at CNN included was really interesting.
Okay.
Because he said that polling data actually shows that voters trust Trump more on issues like the economy, crime, immigration.
Nice.
But wait a minute. They trust him more on the issues, but he's not winning in the head-to-head polls.
It doesn't quite add up, does it?
It feels like a disconnect, right?
It's a real head-scratcher, and it kind of sums up this entire election. Voters connect with Trump on certain issues. There's no denying that.
Right.
But it's that same intensity that sometimes it holds him back from appealing to a broader base, those swing voters he needs.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with this question that I think is really at the heart of it all. If voters seem to trust Trump more on some of these key issues, what does Kamala Harris need to do to bridge that gap? What's her path to victory in this really unprecedented and kind of unpredictable political landscape? It'll be fascinating to see how these next few weeks play out.
Absolutely fascinating.